So now, I'll walk you through my process for making ground decals. The first thing I need to do is planning, and thus, to do that, I actually need lots of calculations. And this particular file is one of them. Okay, first I need to copy all of this. Every single bit of it, even including down here. Copy it. Jump down, paste. There it is. Not Lake Kevern bottom, Lake Kevern shoreline, since that's what I'm going to be working with. Now, I need to make a few changes to what the otherwise Lake bottom had. For one, what scaling range do I want to use? Like 24 do I want to start with? Or do I want to go with something a little closer, a little further? And where do I want to end? Do I want to end at 32? Or maybe push it out to 36? I'm kind of leaning toward 24 for starting. And the bottom is not 27, it's going to be 32. However, there's one thing I need you to note. Resolution. Okay, what's that all about? Well, this is basically how many scaling units are in each pixel on the base image. And in this case, there's actually 512 pixels per scaling unit. That's basically all it means. The finer the resolution, the better the overall quality, but the greater the memory usage. And of course, this change flag also needs to get changed. So I just reset that, just select one of the zeros and fill down basically, nothing really special there. And I also need to get rid of these here. That's for memory planning. Of course, you don't need to go up to 60,000. Yeah, notice the 9,000 rows here. So, what resolution am I going to use? I think it's probably going to be 1/16, as in 16 pixels per scaling unit, on one axis anyway. However, there's one thing. Repeat width 2048. At this scaling, it's actually going to be 85 1/3 pixels for every repeat. I would not qualify that as high quality. Not even close. So, I'm going to fix that. And that's really easy to fix. I usually use powers of 2, or close derivatives of powers of 2. Close derivatives? Okay. 3072 is an example of a close derivative. How is that a close derivative? Equals 1024, that's a power of 2, 2 to the 10th, times 3, and what do you get? But 3072. But I'm going to use 32768. That's 1 kiloblock. But notice that the width is so much greater now. So, okay, not too bad. But what about the memory usage? That's what this is. That's what these two columns are for. This is in bytes, because that's what array sizes are dependent on. And this is what it is in MB for kind of getting a better comprehension on that. And way down here, something is a little off. Way off. And I think I see why. 42.5. That is way further than I'm expecting to see. And thus I need to fix that by going to where it says 32, delete, use keyboard navigation here, and just delete all these extra rows. That was actually pretty easy to do. And hey, this makes a whole lot more sense for that resolution and stuff. But this is tiny. After all, these right here is what I have available for memory. These ones are already taken because of the lake bottom, so I cannot use those. And thus, I need to use these two 1 meg slots, and I have this roughly half meg, it's actually a little more. And then of course I got all these little tiny ones in here. I wonder what they add up to. Equals that. Equals 1 above, add that. Okay, and add in those, so I have about, well, equals that, add 2097152, I memorize that number, it's 2 to the 21st. So this is my memory limit, at the absolute most extreme, but I would like to keep that below that, because fractions cause problems, and that's never going to round out exactly every single time. So I'm going to try 4 kiloblocks. And what do I get? That is high, but it should still be doable. And thus, I can probably still go more. Let's see. 196608. That's 6 kiloblocks. And what do I get? That is overdoing it. So, I have another option. I can change the start scaling, or I can make the end scaling different, or I can also reduce this, or change it to something else. Like 5 kiloblocks, for example. Rather screwy, because 5 is kind of not really a close derivative. And this gets me pretty close. 3.5. So yeah, 5 would actually work out fairly well, but it's just so strange. I would rather go with 4 kiloblocks. It's a power of 2, so I'm going to end up with powers of 2. That number, by the way, is 2 to the 17th. And now to figure out how exactly I want to go about distributing, how I want to get the memory all figured out. And in this case, I don't need these anymore because those are just temporary, because I needed to figure out how much memory I had available. And let's see. Of course, there's always special markers of it present that are common. And in this case, I don't see anything that's significant. The far background scenery may actually use something, so yeah, I'm going to be using that, because I might use it for the houses and little roads and pathways. So yeah, I might actually be able to make use of whatever's left. Oops, went too far. So, since I got that done, save. Wise to save frequently, you know. So, for this next part, since there's really nothing special here, I look at these and I try to find numbers that are really, really close without going over. You can't have array overflow, or you're going to get program instability or even crashing. Yeah, unhandled exception errors. You definitely do not want those. But this looks very good. So I go to the next one below that and mark it. Put a 1 in here so that way it gets reset. So this one I'll mark as 1 MB, so I know that this will be the 1 MB slot. And thus I see 24 going to 27, 24 going to 27. Okay. Now let's see if I can find something that's going to be the same as well. 1, 4, ooh my, this is so nice. Sometimes I get it very conveniently, but not all the time. Let's see. 30.375 is going to be the other one. Oops, wrong spot. 30.375, it has to start with 27. Because that's where this one ended, and so this one's starting here. This is how I work around the malloc issue that I've never been able to solve and have literally given up on. So what do I got left but 447? Or let's see, this one's already used, so I have this available, which is probably what I'm going to use. 30.375 and all the way out to 32, and thus these ones here are now reserved for anything else I might add to that world. So mark that on there so I know exactly which one that is. file save. That phase of the process is done. And otherwise, now the entire process for the planning and memory distribution is done. Now comes the artwork. Doing the ground decals is done almost the same way as that of the clouds. However, there are a few differences, hence the word almost. For one, this is a finished result. Does it look very familiar? I'll give you a huge clue. Yeah, it's World 1's distant background texture. All the farm fields, the city here, the varied shoreline here with this lovely gradient that Lake Everyone's going to be getting as well. Yep, and all these layers as well. Yeah, nothing new. But this is actually an extremely detailed case. However, Lake Everyone not going to be as detailed as that. However, I'm not doing Jeremy's house's world. I don't need to do that one anymore. It's done. So, Lake Everyone, I don't have it, so gotta make a new image. There's one problem though. How big do I make the image? To do that, I have to do some math. First, note the resolution. That's basically 16 pixels for every scaling unit. 16 pixels for every scaling unit. Now, I'm going from 24 to 32. That's 8 scaling units, times 8. So, okay, that's the height, 128. No big deal there. So, 128. What about the width? Well, that one does take a little bit more effort. For one, I need to figure out what the resolution is in coordinate units. Ah, that's the key. Coordinate units. To figure that one out, I need to know, well, convert scaling units to coordinate units. And that is very simple. 2048 divide 3. That's the exact conversion ratio. So where does that lead? Well, I also have this resolution here. Divide by 16. That's how many coordinate units there are in every pixel on the height on that image. Okay, so how does that relate into the width then? Well, to get it proportional, I need to take note of this repeat width. Of course, I'm actually doing it in kind of reverse, but whatever. 131072, the same repeat width. Of course, to undo that, I basically do that. 3072, and I have this, which is way bigger. So what's going on here? There's actually a reason for that. Otherwise, I actually draw the image not based on this resolution, but half this resolution, which means the width is actually going to be double. That does improve the quality, and it does kind of increase the workload. So why don't I just adjust it in here then? This is going to otherwise, it's otherwise going to end up being the same. However, there's actually reasons for doing that. But 6144 by 256, that is the key. Okay, so that's the image size that I need. And there you have it. That's what my new image size is. Of course, fill whole selection, set that to black. I like black. Compress as well, even better than white, although very slightly, but whatever. So, duplicate this, and now, let's see, I'm going to be doing the shoreline. I'm going to mark the boundary of the shoreline. There are a few other things that I need to add in too. Make clear that so it's transparent, so that I have nothing there. And, what color is my sand? There's only one way for me to find out, and that's importing an image. And that's done this way. Trouble is, classified content. Can't show you. Sorry. Here's the image right here. Ground sand solid. Of course, under my automation results, because I wrote programs to generate all this. But this will give me the color I need. And this happens to be that color. Kind of average in a way. Set this to that size. Nothing really new there. And all I needed that for was just the color. So I can just otherwise hide it. I'm going to resize this image a bit more. I do this so I can have GIMP on the top usually, but I kind of recently started it, so it's not going to be at the top just now. But I do that so that way if I get that infinite loop bug that you've seen in one of my other videos, then I can quickly terminate the program so I can get it started up again. Of course I lose my progress, but you get the point. So I'll just pick a point and go from there, really. That way I can save my color. Now I'm going to save this image under the temp. Lake Keveran BG decal shore, or I'll just put a number in here, 2032 base, because it's my base version, .glsf, as I like calling XAF, because that's GIMP's native format. And there's that. There is one other thing that I tend to do that kind of helps as a guideline. First, I duplicate this, and this I'm going to rename to, what was that? Scaling grid. Scaling grid? That's a silly name. But there's actually a point or a reason for that. Change this color to something that stands out extremely well, pink, or magenta to be more precise. And now I'm going to mark exactly where these are. Special boundaries in particular. Of course the layer is not visible and I forgot to clear it. That all the way over to here. Let's see, this would mark where the 32 is. Down here would be marking where the 24 is. And halfway in between would mark the 128. Note that it's linear. Okay. I do 2 of these. And for other ones, let's see, 160. I hate the fact you can't put in 255 or 159 here. You have to calculate it, which is really annoying. But it's something like that. So I should get 159, which is the closest to 5/8. But yeah, that's my standard that I use. Okay, so I place a point, Z it, because otherwise it's going to include that as well. Just to give you an idea. Notice that this is a little brighter. So, yeah, that's why I put a point there to set that position. Z it, and go from there, really. And I copy the same thing up here. So what is this scaling grid all about? It's to help me know what the exact Z position of something is. But I think this is actually sufficient enough for this particular world. But the next one I tend to do is 37.6, which gives me 96. This goes at 32, which is the next power of 2. And just to verify that it is 96, and it is. So, Z, reset. Put that up at 31. And for these ones, I usually just do some quick copy paste. And looky here what I forgot to do. Quick enough fix at least, but it's no real big deal. But I have a habit of correcting minor things, which is kind of advantageous in a way. Move 64. This is where GIMP 2.4 and later is really bad. Super slow if I do that. I like the high speed. Boy, does that help a lot. Just 64 on all of them, and I think that's otherwise enough. And so it doesn't kind of interfere a lot or anything like that. I just adjust the opacity to something that kind of fits.